Hey everybody, Royce from Hill Country CNC and Woodworking, and today I'm working on another project. I did some draped flags using a file that I'll share with you later on in the video, and using Aspire to digitally manipulate some of this stuff. I explain it all. I'm very detail oriented. If you've never watched any of my videos before, I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. I have 3 versions that I made. This one is on just regular cheap-ish, if you can call it cheap, plywood. The Baltic Birch version, which I enclosed in a box, and then because of the Gonzalez come and take it flag, I kind of decided to go with a burnt background. So I did like a Shoshugibon burnt edges kind of thing. It's kind of cool. I'll do a close-up on that so you can see it. And then I did the walnut version, which obviously is not finished yet. I still have to go in and finish some sanding and then oil it up and stuff, and it'll be great. So stick with me and I'll show you what I know and what I figured out. I'm not maybe the biggest expert in the world on Aspire or Vectric or any of that, even CNC, but you'll get to see a lot. You're going to see the Onefinity, which you can barely see because I got it covered up, in action, and then you're also going to get to see the Laguna SmartShop 2 Pro in action. So 2 different versions of how to do this. I'll also explain a little bit why I used our shop CNC and my home CNC and how they differ, and what options you have with the difference. All right, jumping in, I bought the underlying file from Patriot Nation Design. They're a bunch of good guys. I chose wavy flags just to reduce the amount of stuff that I had to look through, and you'll see as I go through, it's a bunch of wavy flags. You'll see the come and take it flag. That is not the one that I'm making, okay? I just bought the wavy flag so I could put other stuff on top of it, like Texas A&M or Heart or whatever I wanted to do. I bought this flag, and that way I could do whatever I wanted to do with Aspire. Now you can make this on your own, but it takes a lot of different softwares that's pretty complicated. Looking here, I'm just showing you that you can get a membership with them. I think that's kind of cool if you have the needs to get a lot of files, but I'm just buying the $10 file and it works pretty good. Also, you might be thinking $10. I've already pre-sold 3 of these, and I'll tell you how much I made at the end of the video. So we're in Aspire now, and we're just going to grab this DNJ file. That's the file that I bought. We're going to go in here and we're going to do our setup. It gets 21 or 24 by 18. And then for the thickness, I got a fraction, and you'll see what I did is I took the 91 divided by 128, and then I did the equal sign, and that will compute to your decimal. Machine bed. This is actually the file that I'm making for the Laguna. So you're going to go over to Model, Import Component, and then find your file. So I'm opening it, and then you'll see it'll pop up, and then you have to set your dimensions in the model size of what you want. Now, pay attention to that check block XYZ ratio, but I'm going to set it for 24, and that makes the Y 15.9, and then I'm going to uncheck and change the Z. And that'll be the depth of, or the thickness of my material. We're gonna look at it because that's what I always do. And then we'll, well, you can center it, but that's not important. But you'll go over to position and import. I guess I was really enjoying looking at this. I told you, I teach like Eeyore, like slow, methodical, kind of boring. I'm glad you're still with me. Position and import. There you go. Oh, there you go. So now we have to set the position relative to the model plane, and we want it all the way to the bottom. That'll be the last step. We'll import. And there you go. So you have now imported the 3D file of the flag. Step 1 is achieved. So now we are going to go over to the component. So select the component and click on it, and we're just going to get everything set correctly here. I like my files to be clean in the naming conventions, because when you get too many files, it gets confusing. If you're going to do this one time, you know, it doesn't matter. But if you do multiple files, you need to get the naming right. Then we're going to go over to the base height, and I set it to 0.3. And you're going to say, well, why did you raise the base height? Well, that's going to change the dimension of your model so that instead of being flat, you'll have that little increase in depth, and that gives you just a more substantial product. If you don't do that, it's just this real thin breakable piece. So now we're going to go over, I'm just going to do my initial save and create my file name. So this is going to be the come and take it flag, but I'm saving this file as the draped flag so I can use it for other things. My next step is importing the Canon and Star and all that. And I designed them on Adobe Illustrator. You'll see this DXF file. You can create files like this on multiple different platforms, but I'll do a video hopefully in the next week after this is released about how I do files on Adobe Illustrator. So up to this point, everything can be done with VCarve Pro. But now we're going to push it into Aspire. So I select the Canon, and I'm going to go ahead and do this rounding tool. Create round shape, and I'm going to give it a 15-degree roundness. Or, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is. 15-degree profile, which will make the rounded look. So we'll go over to 3D view and check that out. Here you can't really tell, but when you shift it over, you'll start to see, oh, that is rounded, right? But it's very, very slight, right? So what I do next is, again, I'm going to change that base height, and you can do it over here, or you can do it on the base height on the left panel. And I'm just going to put it at 0.1. And if you look now you have that little bit of lip there, so it gives you more of a 3D look. Check my overall height. That'll be important later. And then I'm going to go ahead and change the name, because we want each component to have their own identifier. And of course, this is the Canon. So we'll say Canon, hit apply, and we're good with that step. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing to the star, except we're going to do an angular shape component. And again, the 15 degrees, and again, also with the increase in base height, change the name, which I'll get right eventually. and click apply. You'll be able to look at it. We'll rotate it around and you'll see that it turns out pretty nice. That's not going to be perfect. If you look at the angles on the star, I haven't found a way to make those angles perfect. Mention real quick, there's chapters below if you miss anything. So remember, we're just building the generic file right now. So we select the come and take it, and then we're going to go over here and do that round over again. And you're like, well, round over on the letters? Yeah, you'll understand in just a second. So I put that 15-degree arc on it, renamed it to words. I didn't capitalize words, which aggravated me, which I went back and fixed later. All right, and you'll see with just the 15 degrees, it's just this tiny little roundover, and that helps with the milling, so it doesn't have to make this straight object. Okay, so here I'm doing some math. You can't see me doing the math, but I figured out that this 0.2887 or something like that should be my starting point for kind of matching what is going on with the star in the cannon. And I look at it and look at it. There we go. We're looking at it, and if you look at the cannon's not up quite as much. It seems like the letters are a little high. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and change that. And, you know, I'm doing decimal points here, so this is just a really tiny change, but sometimes it can make it worth the effort. So we'll go back to components. Go ahead and capitalize the W because I'm OCD, and apply. So now we're going to go back and save that generic template. This generic template will allow us to make future changes. It's saving time in the long run versus getting one thing done now. So I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to open the Draped Flag, which I went straight to, which you'll see my brain goes ADHD, and eventually I end up clicking on it, and we're going to open that. So Aspire pops up. We're in the Draped Flag generic file again, and I'll show you the 3D view just so you can see it's the same thing. We're going to import a component, which is that Gonzalez flag template. And there you go. Looks great, but not. So we'll go ahead and select it. The best way that I know to do that when you have layers like that is just go to the component, go to design, and resize. And that way you don't have to worry about all the clicking on this or clicking on that. It's just simpler that way. Something I figured out with this flag in particular is that you're going to want it big, but that's not what you should do with the come and take it flag. You should make it pretty small, and you'll see that I keep going smaller and smaller and smaller until it actually fits naturally. So we got that resized, and now we're just going to make sure it's centered. And there you go. And then one of the last things that we kind of need to do with this is create a vector boundary. So we click on the flag and create a vector boundary and click on the edge, and you'll see it there. And that'll help us when we go to mill everything out. So jumping to an older file that I made, you'll see that this one has the bend that would follow along with the draped flag. And you'll also kind of notice that it's not really that attractive. That little bent carrot cannon doesn't do well in this one. The come and take it text looks fine to me. It's a little exaggerated. And if you look back at the original flag, it did look okay. But I kind of wanted to change it. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how to do that. So this again is our original template that we made. It is straight. There is no distortion whatsoever on this. And this is why I made it this way. So I can just go back and make whatever little changes I want to make to this thing and save it under a different file. So we're back on this, and we need to do a few things to distort it. I decided not to distort the cannon. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this was just for me, you don't have to do it. I move the words out of my way. Eventually. I swear I'm going to do it. I promise. So move the words. There we go. So I'm just moving the words out of my way. You'll understand once I get into the process of distorting them, right? So you're going to go create an arc. And I basically go from the beginning of the C to, I don't know, what is that? Almost to the end. And then I zoom in because you get more specific, I can't say that word. You get more ability to manipulate finely. Specificity? I don't know. You see how that's a very slight bend? So I'll tell you, when I was making this video, I did this probably 20 times before I figured out which bend I wanted. And it makes a difference. If you think back on the flag, the right side of the flag is drooped a little bit more than the left side is. So my thought was, let's go 3/4 of the way over, and that's where we're going to cause our arc, and that'll look more natural on the flag. Now I'm just going in, and I'm creating a couple lines, and these lines are going to be used for cutting. That's it. If you leave that long tail there, it's going to make your words go all the way across the screen. So go ahead and make your little line and just go snip, 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 snip. And now you have this gentle arc, okay? Now we're going to go to the Distort Selected Objects. And we're going to choose above a single curve. We're going to select the text. We're going to press Shift and select the line. So if I had clicked apply, it would have distorted the come and take it. But I decided to change a few things, and I don't know, I guess waste some time, because you'll see here shortly that I spend about 20 or 30 seconds here just wasting everybody's time, and I'm sorry about that. Eventually we're going to get to where we're going. So I select the come and take it. Now I hit distort again, above a single line, Shift, click the line. You see the green check mark, click apply. Oh my God, what happened? What is this? So I did Command Z on the Mac and just went back. You see that little green dot with the arrow? That was the problem. So go to the other side and tell it to make start point here so that your start point is going the other direction. And that should solve your issue here. So we're going to select the words again, distort, single line, shift, select the line, apply, and there you go. So now we're just going to select the curved line. And of course, I went about it the hard way because I could have just hit delete right there, but select it, delete it, get rid of it. And then we're going to move the words into location, roughly where we feel it's right. Got to remember everything we're doing here is basically art, so there is no wrong answer, although people can make fun of it. And that looks good to me, and you also saw the center line, so it's telling me it's roughly centered. I'll go back and do horizontal center anyway, and you can see it didn't move. And that's that. We'll go ahead and start building what we already did with the straight one. So we open, create a round shape, doing the 0.15 again. And on this one, because we did it with the original, we already know we're going to do, I believe it was 0.27. Click apply, and you should be good. Check it out in 3D view. And it looks pretty good to me. All right, so just going back, changing the name again, and I messed it up again. Words with a capital W. And then you get to see me really mess up, because save. Well, what did I do? I saved the curved to my straight template. So now my template is now distorted, and that's not what I was looking for. So I go ahead and reload the 3D Draped Flag and import the component. And of course, it's the template. So I have it open, I import the template, and just to make things easier, I'm going to go over here to components, and I'm just going to pull down the Gonzalez flag below the wavy flag, and that puts it on top. All right, now we're going to adjust it, same as before, no big changes here. Looks pretty good. Go ahead and center it horizontally, and there you go. So we're moving on, and I'm using 2 bits from bitsandbits.com. They sent me these bits, and I told them I'd try them out. So I'm going to go ahead and download their tool library and import it. So you just go to their website, go to tool directory, and then click on this link right here, and that'll go to your downloads. And you see here on my desktop, I have my tool database, and you'll see that Bits and Bits Vectric tool library complete. And then go up to Toolpath and down to Tool Database. And I'm just closing these out to make it cleaner. Then import, and then you have to find your little file, and that's why I have it starred. And click on that. Import. There's nothing to merge. There's no overwriting. And of course, it expands everything again, which is just something not incredibly cool about Vectric. But there you go. So these are the two bits that I'll be using. It's the 1/4 inch downcut spiral and the 1/8 inch tapered ball spiral, 7 degree. Pretty cool. I like them. They have the Astra coating, which is for making your bit last longer. I've used bits without any coating, either Astra or Spectra, and I will tell you they fall apart quick. All right, we're going to go ahead and hop in on the toolpath. Go ahead and pin your toolpath. The 3D roughing isn't really needed unless you're doing something hard, like the walnut. The 3D finishing is perfect for plywood. So I've got two bits there. The 46286 is my standard Amana, which obviously not using. And then I had already selected this. This is the Bits and Bits ball nose 7 degree. So we'll select that. Slight error in what I did there. We're going to end up leaving all the geometry the same. And then we're going to push some of the cutting parameters. If you're at this point where you're doing 3D carves and you don't know about chip load, you need to go watch some videos about chip load, because that's significant when you get into 3D carves. You know, you want that good chunk of chip, not powder. And then, of course, too much is going to break your bit. So right now, this is what we have. That's what we're going with. We're removing that again. Cutting the model boundary. There's really nothing amazing about this. I did a horizontal raster because of the horizontalness of the tops of the letters and the top and bottom of the cannon. If I had done my normal like 40, 45 degree, you would have more of that showing, more of the bit touch points showing. So this will just make the tops of those things a little smoother. And then I go ahead and name it, and I put the bit on there. And this just helps me identify the file when I get it to the CNC. Calculate. So we'll go ahead and run that file. Watch the preview, and I left an extra version. So I'm just going to go in real quick and delete that. Keep in mind, I've done several versions of this when I recorded this, and that's basically where that file came from. So I reset the preview, and we'll be able to look at it. There it is. It's nice. Don't really see any flaws. You'll notice that I programmed it to be the exact size. That way I'm not wasting any plywood or wood. And that's about it for that. And then we'll go in and we'll click on that vector that we started and do a profile toolpath. We got to put in the depth of our material. and then select our bit. And of course I have my Amana sitting there. And we'll switch over to bits and bits. Spiral inlaid, quarter, down cut. There you go. Everything looks good. We won't make any changes right now. Okay, we're cutting on, passes. I cut very conservatively, especially with something like this that I spend hours cutting. So doing 6 passes isn't going to hurt you, you know? It's going to just protect you from your material moving and ruining your project. So cutting on the outside, we're going to add a ramp. I always like to go with, and I don't know why I don't just do a 2-inch ramp, but I go with something longer like a 1.75 and then name it. And again, the reason I'm so conservative with the profile cuts is you're going to be loosening this thing from the rest of the wood. So if it moves, you have destroyed your project. So take that extra time, do the extra ramp, let it go slow. It's going to add a couple minutes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and preview. Oh, but it didn't cut through. So what is the problem here? And I thought about it for a second. I could just change that and you'd never see that I made this error. But I didn't really make an error. What it is I'm dealing with a computer, okay? This computer makes assumptions, and when you actually look at the number there, it did rounding. For whatever reason, it decided to round the wrong direction. So let's go back and look at our material thickness, which is 0.7109. If that was rounded up, it would be what? 0.711, right? So I went ahead and changed it, rounded it up. Let's calculate it. Oh, wait. Even the machine is looking at this as 0.711. So we do that again, run the preview, and it cuts through, and it works. So let's look at the summary of toolpaths. 13 hours and 20 minutes. That's a lot. I'm not going to sit there for that long. I'm just not. The profile is fine. No need to speed that up. So let's go back, and I'll be honest, I already changed it for this video, but I didn't change anything for the geometry. Didn't change anything for the step over. But I came down here to the feeds and speeds, and I knew that my chip load needed to be about 0.0037. 308 is a little fast, but not even pushing it. So I adjusted the feed rate and the plunge rate and made this move a little faster. And then we can go over here. And again, I already did this, so it's already calculated. You'll see that that took an hour and 10 minutes off, right? And you can play with this even further. It's just me showing you what you can do. This is also based off the rapid rate of your machine. So understand that part too. If you ever cut something and it's not in time with what it says it's supposed to be, your rapid rate on your machine is probably different. Okay. So here we go. We're going to go save it all. We're going to say we're happy right now. So you may want to group or not group depending on whether or not you have a tool changer. And then you select your machine and the post processor. You can see that I'm running this one on the Laguna. There's a little bit of wizardry going on in the background here. The file that I just showed you, I created for the Laguna. But I obviously, as you can see, I'm about to run this on the Onefinity. I'm telling you, just to be clear, the file you just saw me watch is not this file. I made a separate file for the Onefinity as opposed to the Laguna. It's just I didn't record that when I made it. And just to put this into context, the way I came about this project was I'm going to use my leftover scrap, cheap plywood to run a test. Once that test worked, then I took it over to my Baltic Birch on the Laguna, both of which cost 10 times more than the cheap scrap, and run an official run. And that's what I did. So this is just me setting up the Onefinity for that test run. If anybody has any good ideas of how to secure that hose, I would love to hear about it in the comments, because I haven't come up with a real good idea for that one. Pretty annoying, actually. So just showing you what I'm looking at real quick. I use the black box. I'm about to upgrade to the Masso, but I'm still on the black box. And you can see, I showed it for just that 1 second, that the 12 hours that it said was not the 12 hours over here. And that file is very similar to the one that I just showed you. So my calculations are different. And then this is me. I have my dust collection on this little guy. You just hit the button and everything turns on. It's really sweet. I'll link that below. I don't think I've ever linked it in any of my videos before, but it's real simple. You just plug in and it runs everything. So turning on my router, which is also being replaced here soon. Got everything set up, but just haven't pulled the trigger yet. And here we go. This is obviously 6.5 hours long, so I'm not going to make you watch all that, although I would love the metrics I would get off of YouTube. If everybody would watch my 12-hour long video, that'd be sweet. But no, I'm just going to do some cut scenes where you see the machine working. You're probably, somebody out there is also like, man, your dust collection sucks. Well, I wanted to show you the machine cutting. So I don't have the brush on it, which would cause this to be much more efficient. That's a Kraken dust collection system with a 4-inch tube. It's far better than any other dust collection I've used. Well, other than the Laguna. Works really good. And the whole idea of it is, you know, you want a whole lot of CFM to pull large volumes of air, whereas a shop vac uses those narrow tubes to pull less air. Overall, it just becomes more efficient. So again, this was my first file that I made for this. And when you look at it now, look at the K. You see all those little notch marks? Those are from the step over. My step over was too high. I think it was at 7%. So I dropped it down to 5 to get a much smoother version of it. That did sand out, but let me tell you, sanding each one of those letters with that little bitty mark on there was not fun. You buy a CNC to make life easy, not to spend days sanding. Speaking of which, here's the sanding. That little Festool sander right there with the squishy pad on it is just about as awesome as you can get for this project. Then I just took it into our paint booth and sprayed it up. The initial run of this one, because it was on the cheaper plywood, it has a bunch of notches and cuts and stuff in it. And I kind of deemed, you know, I could spend days filling with putty and smoothing and sanding. And I just didn't want to do that. This was a test run, and it came out pretty decent. So we're about ready to jump into the Laguna. This is the Laguna SmartShop 2 Pro, and it will give you a full set of cabinets in your kitchen in less than a day. It's pretty wild. Phenomenal. I apologize for my camera. I don't know why, but it just didn't want to stay focused on that. It was going in and out on the axis of the machine. This again is the file that I showed you. So you can see the other big difference between that first one that we just watched cut and this one is the raster. So this one's going horizontally where the last one was going at a 45-degree angle. We're just jumping through here. Still using those bits, and they are performing absolutely wonderfully. Albeit, I will say, you know, we have done UV plywood and now Baltic Birch plywood. Probably not the hardest material in the world to cut, but to this point, wonderful. So here's the big machine, and the reason I love the machine is the interface, because this does so much more. It's also why I'm upgrading to the Masso eventually, or soon, or whatever. And this is just some gratuitous flag making pictures. And keep going. The other reason that these machines are so much faster than a home machine is the ATC, because you can just make your file and then it runs everything. If it needs to be touched off, it touches off. It does everything if you have it programmed right, and you don't have to go and change any, you know, it just stops, goes, picks up the new tool, winds up, and cuts. It's that simple. The other thing I'll also say about the Laguna that I absolutely love is the vacuum table. No glue, no clamps, nothing. Boom, done. And that's the flag with the Baltic Birch, the higher quality birch. And you can see that the edges are just so much better. Moving down the step over rate turned out really well. Doesn't mean I didn't have to sand for days. And how did this get in? Oh, I wanted to show you this. So this is the finished product right here. And, you know, it's got a couple coats of primer and paint on it, but much smoother than the first version. Hopping in over here, this is the Walnut version. I built a little box around it, which I didn't show you in this video, but anybody who's watching a video about Aspire probably can figure out within a couple minutes how to build this box. It wasn't rocket science at all. My depth, I will tell you, so the height of the beginning of the 3D part of this is 0.50, right? And then the depth of my tray is 0.50. So in theory, the 3D model starts at the depth of my tray. And it worked pretty good. Not 100% sure why it didn't work perfectly, but we're off, I don't know, by, I don't know, 3/10,000ths, I don't know. It's a small amount, but you can see where the bit touched the tray. And as a perfectionist, I don't like that, but, you know, it is what it is. I know CNC people, we all like to talk about how we do things. You'll notice here that I used the tape and CA glue method of holding down again. It worked wonderfully. And then the other tip that I'm gonna give is when you have these long cuts like this that are, you know, hours long, do the stuff that takes minutes first. So I know from experience that doing the outside profile is where you're most likely to cause damage to your work. So I cut that first. Then I came on the inside and did the cutout of the tray. And, you know, obviously that worked well. I used the same downcut bit for that. And then once everything looked good, that's when I stepped up and did the 3D carve that took several hours. Okay, since you've been with me this long, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to like and subscribe. This is what I do, man. This is what I enjoy. I'm trying to build the channel. I enjoy teaching. I got really proficient at teaching. I call it to the lowest level when I was in the military. And it's just kind of where I get my kicks. So please like and subscribe. I'll appreciate it. I answer all questions that come my way. So just go ahead and ask, and I'll either answer you or I'll try to point you in the right direction. I don't know everything. Yeah, please like and subscribe and follow me and make me a superstar. Just happened to notice it in this picture here. But you see those chips on the sides? See how big those are? Those are your chip sizes that you're looking for. You don't want powder. Powder is going to ruin your bit. Chips bigger than that, it's probably going to break your bit. So you can see everything's finishing up here. Got a few more seconds and we'll be on to the next part. It's no real rocket science here. I just went ahead and sanded because, again, I'm doing this at home instead of the shop. I don't have the fancy Festool. I have a few Milwaukee sanders that I love, but for this project, because the way it is, I just kind of did it all by hand. Really started with 220 for all of this, and then worked up to 400, and it worked fairly well. So this was my water pop. I like to do this. I got really overboard on it because it was just looking so good with the water on there. But you can see immediately how much of that grain popped up. So when it dried, it looked great. So I'm just continuing sanding here, but to the left there, you'll see a couple options where there's some videos and stuff that you might like as this one comes to an end. Just finishing it up. For this, I used Howard's cutting board oil. I'm not going to jump out and say that I'm the biggest fan of this stuff. I like it. There's nothing wrong with it. But generally, I buy this stuff because I can get it. It's readily available in an area. I've tried a few other ones. I'm a fan of walrus oil, but this works and it works good. You'll see the finished product here in a second, and it turned out great. I also bought the butcher block oil for this, or butter, the butcher block butter from Howard's, thinking I might use it, but once I was done with the oil, I said, no, this is good. No need to put the butter on there. And that's obviously a little bit more for food grade type things anyway. So I just didn't use that. I think I ended up doing about 3 coats of the oil, and it turned out pretty beautifully. Okay, doing the wrap up. I wanted to talk about 2 things really. First off, I think everything turned out pretty well. But I also wanted to talk about the bits that I got from Bits and Bits. And tell you that the round over bit, the 7-degree round over, turned out as good as I could possibly expect it. So we cut 3 different things, 3D milling with the round over bit, and it performed every bit as good as the Amana Tools bits that I normally use. The downcut compression bit, I will say probably performed maybe like 3 to 5% less effectively. I heard, and you're like, how can you quantify such a small number? And it's really just boils down to the noise and a couple of the other little things that I listen for as a CNC guy. It just didn't seem like it was performing quite as well. Now, with that said, if you're fine with 3 to 5% not as good as the Amana Tool downcut, for a reduction of cost of at least $20, you know, hey, I think it's pretty good. And then the other thing that I was going to mention, in the beginning of the story, I said, you know, pay for a $10 file, and you know, this is what you can get, right? So I pre-sold 3 of these, and I mentioned that in the beginning of the video, and you're like, well, what do you pre-sell them for? This walnut version right here is $325. So I spent $10 on the bit, why did I say bit? Because I was just talking about bits. I spent $10 on the file from Patriot Nation Design and made almost $1,000. Now, of course, there's the cost of the wood, but actually this particular piece of wood was given to me. So I made a gigantic profit off of that. So I hope you liked the video. I did decide while making this video that I am going to make a Adobe video showing you how I made that part of the flag, because some people just don't know that. The Shoshugibon and this one, I don't even know if I'm gonna sell them, but I think you have the potential for decent profit on those as well. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm all done here, and I'm off to start something new.